Mara Chen's hands trembled as she watched the security footage for the third time. There on the screen, crystal clear, was Dominic Ashford stepping into her patisserie at 2:47 a.m. But he wasn't breaking in. He was using a key. Her key. The one she'd never given him. The one that shouldn't exist. He moved through her shop like he owned it, which according to the property records she'd pulled up in a panic. He did. He stopped at the display case, pressed his palm against the glass where her signature rose cardamom macarons usually sat, and stood there for 53 minutes. Just standing. Like he was waiting for something. For her. The notification buzzed. New email. No sender name. She opened it with shaking fingers. I know you're watching, Mara. I know you found the property records. Before you call the police, before you run again, I need you to understand 3 things. 1. I've been funding your life for 7 years. 2. Every success you think you earned alone I made possible. 3. I have 2,847 letters I've written to you. 1 for every day since you disappeared. You have 48 hours to meet me, or I'll publish every single one online. The world will know exactly how obsessed I am. How obsessed I've always been. The choice is yours. Same place we made the promise. Midnight tomorrow. Come alone or don't come at all. Either way, this ends. Mara's vision blurred. She knew exactly what promise he meant. Knew exactly where he wanted her to go. The abandoned conservatory on the edge of town where they'd spent the summer before college. Where 17-year-old Dominic Ashford, the boy everyone overlooked, had kissed her under the broken glass ceiling and made her promise something impossible. If neither of us has found our person by 25, he'd said, his gray eyes intense in the moonlight, we come back here. We give us a real chance. No more pretending we're just friends. She'd laughed, agreed, kissed him again. Then 3 months later, she'd left for culinary school in Paris and never looked back. That was 8 years ago. She was 25 now. And apparently Dominic had been counting. Her best friend Elise burst through the door of the patisserie, her dark skin flushed with worry. I came as soon as you texted. What's the emergency? Mara showed her everything. The footage, the property records, the email, the threat to publish the letters. Elise's eyes went wide. Mara, this is insane. You need to call the police right now. And tell them what? That the man who owns my building came into his own property? That he's been secretly funding my business through shell companies? None of that is illegal. The stalking is illegal. The surveillance is illegal. Is it stalking if he never approached me? If he just watched from a distance? Mara's voice cracked. I don't even know anymore. You're actually considering meeting him, Elise said, incredulous. After everything you just told me. He says he has 2,847 letters. Elise. 1 for every single day. What kind of person does that? A psychopath, Elise said flatly. Or someone who never stopped loving you. The words hung between them, because that was the terrifying part. Mara remembered Dominic at 17. Brilliant and invisible. Overlooked by everyone except her. She remembered the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in a world of pretense. The way he'd helped her perfect her first macaron recipe. Staying up until 3 a.m. just to be near her. The way he'd cried when she left. Making her promise they'd find their way back to each other. She'd thought it was teenage dramatics. Apparently he'd thought it was a vow. Before Elise could argue further, Mara's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered, and the voice that came through made her knees weak. Hello, Mara. Dominic's voice was deeper than she remembered. Rougher. Like whiskey and smoke. But it still had that quality that made her feel seen, understood, wanted in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. How did you get this number? She managed. I've always had this number. I've had every number you've ever used. Every address. Every flight itinerary. Every late-night grocery run. I know you, Mara. Better than you know yourself. The admission should have terrified her. Instead, heat pooled in her stomach. That's not romantic, Dominic. That's obsessive. I never claimed to be romantic, he said. I claimed to be devoted. There's a difference. Romantic is flowers and chocolate. Devotion is spending 7 years building an empire specifically designed to support your dreams. Devotion is learning French because you moved to Paris and I wanted to understand the world you were living in. Devotion is writing you a letter every single day even though I knew you'd never read them. Why? The word came out broken. Why would you do any of that? Because you're the only person who ever saw me, Mara. The real me. Not my father's disappointment or my mother's project or the Ashford heir everyone expected me to become. You saw Dominic. The boy who loved chemistry and old movies and the way your face lit up. When you perfected a new recipe. You saw me, and then you left, and I spent 7 years becoming someone worthy of being seen by you again. Tears streamed down her face. Elise was mouthing hang up frantically, but Mara couldn't move. The letters, she whispered. Are they really? 2,847 letters, Dominic confirmed. Some are 1 page. Some are 20. Some are just recipes I thought you'd like or observations about the world I wanted to share with you. Some are confessions of things I've done to protect you. Things that would terrify you if you knew. And yes, Mara, if you don't meet me tomorrow, I will publish every single one. Not to hurt you, but because I need you to understand. I need you to see exactly how deep this goes before you decide to run again. That's blackmail, she said. That's desperation, he corrected. I've waited 7 years for you to be ready. I funded your dreams and protected you from threats you didn't even know existed. I've become a billionaire specifically so I could build a world where you never have to compromise your art. And now you're 25 just like we promised, and I'm done waiting in the shadows. So yes, I'm forcing your hand. Because if I don't, you'll run again and I won't survive that twice. The line went dead. Mara sank into a chair, her whole body shaking. Elise grabbed her shoulders. You are not going to that conservatory. You are not meeting him. This is manipulation, Mara. He's using your guilt and your history to control you. What if he's not? Mara looked up at her best friend. What if he really has spent 7 years loving me? What if those letters are real? Then he's even more dangerous than I thought, Elise said. Because that level of obsession doesn't just go away. It escalates. And you'll be trapped. Mara thought about the property records. About the mysterious investments that had saved her business 3 years ago when she was drowning in debt. About the supplier who tried to extort her and mysteriously went bankrupt the next week. About the landlord who'd harassed her and suddenly sold the building to an anonymous buyer who cut her rent in half. All Dominic. All of it. Her entire adult life shaped by invisible hands. She should be angry. Should be terrified. But a traitorous part of her was curious. What did those letters say? What had he been thinking all these years? And God help her. Did he still look at her the way he had at 17? Like she was magic made real? I have to go, she said finally. Mara, no. I have to know, Elise. I have to know if this is real or if I've been living in a simulation he created. I have to see him, face to face. And then I'll decide. Decide what? Whether to run or stay. If you're hooked, smash that subscribe button and comment below. Team run or team stay? Let me know what you think Mara should do. The conservatory looked exactly like she remembered. Broken glass ceiling open to the stars. Vines reclaiming the iron framework. Wild roses growing through cracks in the stone floor. It was beautiful and haunting, frozen in time. Mara arrived at 11:47 p.m., giving herself time to prepare. She wore a simple black dress, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. No makeup, no armor. If she was doing this, she was doing it as herself. At exactly midnight, she heard footsteps. Dominic Ashford stepped into the moonlight and Mara's breath caught. He'd been handsome at 17 in that understated way people overlooked. At 25, he was devastating. Tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than her monthly revenue. His dark hair was styled back, his jaw sharp and defined, but it was his eyes that made her freeze. Those same intense gray eyes. But now they held something darker. Hunger, devotion, obsession wrapped in expensive packaging. You came, he said, his voice rough with emotion. You threatened to publish private letters. Mara said, trying to keep her voice steady. What choice did I have? You always have a choice. Dominic moved closer, and she noticed he was carrying something, a leather messenger bag worn and well used. You could have called the police, could have run again, could have blocked my email and disappeared. But you came. That means something. It means I want answers. Then you'll have them. He set the bag on the ground between them, unzipped it, and pulled out a stack of leather-bound journals. 7 of them, each embossed with a year. These are the letters. Every single one, organized by year. I brought them all. Mara stared at the journals like they might explode. You actually wrote me every day for 7 years. Yes. No hesitation, no shame. At first it was therapy. My counselor suggested I write to you instead of trying to find you. A way to process the obsession without acting on it. But it became more than that. It became documentation of becoming someone worthy of you. You went to therapy? Mara's voice cracked. 5 years of intensive treatment, Dominic said, starting 2 weeks after you left. When I realized I was checking your social media 40 times a day. When I almost hired a private investigator to find you but stopped myself. When I understood that what I was feeling wasn't healthy love. It was obsession. So I got help. He took a step closer, and Mara's heart hammered against her ribs. I learned about attachment disorders and obsessive thought patterns and why I fixated on you so completely. I learned that the reason I couldn't let you go was because you represented something I'd never experienced. Being valued for myself. Not my family name or my money or my potential. Just me. Mara remembered. Remembered being the only person at school who talked to him about chemistry instead of his father's pharmaceutical empire. Who watched terrible sci-fi movies with him because he genuinely loved them, not because it was ironic. Who saw past the awkward exterior to the brilliant, sensitive person underneath. So therapy made you stop obsessing? She asked. No, Dominic said honestly. Therapy taught me how to channel it. How to love you without controlling you. How to support your dreams without inserting myself into your life. The obsession itself? That never went away. I just learned to make it productive instead of destructive. He gestured to the journals. These letters document that journey. The first year is rough. Angry and desperate and full of bargaining. By year 3, I'd started building my company. By year 5, I tracked you down but made myself stay away. By year 7, I'd created an entire infrastructure to support you without you ever knowing. The property, the investments, the mysterious help that always appeared when I needed it most. Mara's voice shook. Yes. Dominic pulled out his phone and showed her a spreadsheet. Her eyes widened as she scanned it. 7 years of detailed financial support. Millions of dollars. I didn't give you success, Mara. Your talent did that. But I removed every obstacle I could. The supplier who was overcharging you? I bought his company and fixed his pricing. The food critic who gave you a bad review because you rejected him? I acquired his publication and had him fired. The rent that mysteriously dropped? I purchased your building and set the price at a rate that would let you focus on creating instead of surviving. Mara felt dizzy. Every break she'd caught. Every miracle that had saved her business. All Dominic orchestrating from the shadows. Why? She whispered. Why spend 7 years and millions of dollars on someone who left you? Because I made you a promise, Dominic said simply. At 25, if we were both still searching, we'd give us a real chance. You're 25 now, Mara, and I've spent 7 years preparing for this moment. Building myself into someone who could offer you the world. Learning to love you in a way that honors your autonomy instead of smothering it. Becoming worthy. He picked up the first journal and held it out to her. Read them. All of them. See exactly who I've become and what I've done. Then decide if you want to run or if you're willing to give me the chance I've been working toward for 7 years. Mara took the journal with shaking hands. The leather was soft, well worn, like it had been held many times. She opened to the first page and her vision blurred with tears. Day 1. Dear Mara, you left this morning. I watched your car disappear down the highway and felt something in me break. My mother says I'll get over you. that this is just teenage infatuation. She's wrong. I know she's wrong because when I close my eyes, I can still taste the rose cardamom macarons you made me. Can still feel your hand in mine under the conservatory glass. Can still hear you laugh at my terrible jokes. This isn't infatuation. This is the beginning of forever, even if you don't know it yet. I promise you, Mara, I will become someone worthy of that laugh. Someone worthy of your hand. Someone worthy of forever. Even if it takes me a lifetime. Love always, Dominic. The words destroyed her. This wasn't the writing of a stalker. This was the writing of someone heartbroken and desperately in love. She flipped forward randomly. Day 237. Day 891. Day 1654. Each entry more devastating than the last. Documenting his therapy sessions. His business successes. The day he finally found her in Paris. The decision to help from a distance instead of approaching. The recipes he'd learned to cook because they reminded him of her. The French he'd mastered so he could read the culinary journals she published in. 7 years of obsessive, unwavering, completely insane devotion. I don't know if this is love or madness, Mara said, tears streaming down her face. Why can't it be both? Dominic asked. He was closer now, close enough that she could see the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear that she'd reject him after everything. I never claimed to be sane about you, Mara. I claimed to be devoted, to have spent 7 years becoming someone who could love you the right way. There is no right way to stalk someone for 7 years, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. You're right, Dominic agreed. There's no justification for the surveillance or the manipulation of your circumstances. But Mara, I need you to understand. Every decision I made, every dollar I spent, it was all to give you choices. To make sure you never had to choose between your art and your survival. To create a world where you could be exactly who you were meant to be. He pulled out another phone and showed her something that made her stomach drop. A list of threats. People who'd tried to hurt her over the years. Some she remembered. Most she didn't. The investor who tried to steal your recipes. The landlord who installed cameras in your apartment. The ex-boyfriend who started spreading rumors online. The food distributor who was cutting your orders with inferior products. I dealt with all of them. Legally, for the most part. His smile was dark, but thoroughly. Because protecting you isn't something I do to earn your love. It's something I do because I can't help it. Mara's head spun. You've been playing God with my life. I've been removing obstacles from your path, Dominic corrected. There's a difference. I never created your success. I never forced you to be talented or driven or brilliant. I just made sure that talent got the recognition it deserved instead of being buried by people who wanted to use you. He was right in front of her now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, could feel the heat radiating off him. Read the rest of the letters. Take them home. Show them to Elise or your lawyer or the police if you want. Expose everything I've done. I'll accept whatever consequences come. But Mara, I need you to know one thing first. What? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I'm in love with you, Dominic said, his voice raw and honest. I've been in love with you since we were 17 years old. I've built an empire around that love. I've gone to therapy to make sure that love is healthy. I've stayed away to prove that love isn't about possession. And now I'm here, offering you everything I've become, asking for one chance. One real chance to show you that 7 years of obsession can transform into something real. Mara stared at him. At this man who'd spent 7 years becoming someone she might choose, and felt something crack open in her chest. The letters, she said. You were really going to publish them? No, Dominic admitted. That was a bluff. I would never expose you like that. But I needed you here, needed you to listen, to see that this isn't some passing obsession I can walk away from. This is the foundation of everything I've built. The honesty destroyed her last defenses. I don't know how to process this. Any of this. Then don't, Dominic said. Not tonight. Take the letters. Read them at your own pace. And when you're ready, when you've seen exactly who I am and what I've done, Then decide. Decide if you can see a future with someone who loves you this intensely, this completely, this irrevocably. He started to step back, to give her space, but Mara's hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. The touch sent electricity through both of them. Day 1203, she said. What did you write? Dominic's expression shifted to something vulnerable. You want me to recite it? I want to know if you really wrote every day or if this is some elaborate con. Day 1203, Dominic said quietly, his eyes never leaving hers. Dear Mara, I saw you today. Actually saw you not through surveillance but in person. I was in Paris for business and I couldn't help myself. I went to the pâtisserie where you work. I sat in the corner and ordered coffee and watched you create. You were making those rose macarons. And your face had this expression of complete focus. Like the rest of the world didn't exist. Like it was just you and the sugar and the possibility of perfection. His voice dropped lower, became more intimate. You were so beautiful it hurt to breathe. And I realized something. I realized that I could approach you, could walk up to the counter and reintroduce myself, could tell you about the company I built or the money I made or all the ways I've thought about you. But then what? You'd feel obligated. You'd remember the awkward boy from high school and feel sorry for him. You'd say yes out of pity or curiosity, not choice. So I left. I walked out of that pâtisserie and got on a plane and came back here. And I made myself a promise. I wouldn't approach you until I could offer you something worth choosing. Not obligation or pity or old memories, but a real partnership, a real future. That's what I've been building, Mara. Not a cage, but a foundation for us to build on together. Mara's throat was so tight she could barely speak. You were in Paris? You saw me and didn't say anything? 17 times over 5 years, Dominic admitted. Every time I had business in Europe, I found an excuse to go to Paris. To see you. To make sure you were happy and safe. And every time I made myself leave without approaching. Because the love I felt for you deserved better than desperation. It deserved to be built on choice. The revelation shattered something in her. This man had spent 5 years watching her from a distance, close enough to touch but restraining himself, learning to love her in a way that honored her autonomy. Show me, she whispered. Show you what? What you've become, who you are now. Not the boy I remember or the billionaire everyone sees. The real you, the one who wrote 2,847 letters. Dominic studied her face, searching for something. Then slowly, carefully, like he was afraid she might disappear, he took her hand and led her to a stone bench covered in wild roses. The real me is still the boy who loves terrible sci-fi movies, he said, sitting beside her. Still the person who thinks chemistry is magic. Still someone who finds more beauty in a perfectly balanced macaron than in any painting. But I'm also someone who spent 7 years learning to build instead of just consume. To create value instead of just inheriting it. To love in a way that sets free instead of traps. He pulled out his phone and showed her something that made her eyes widen. Blueprints. For a culinary institute. This is my next project, Dominic said. A fully funded culinary school for talented students who can't afford traditional programs. State-of-the-art facilities. World-class instructors. Complete scholarships. I broke ground 6 months ago. It opens next year. Why? Mara breathed. Because you told me once that the hardest part of culinary school was watching talented students drop out because they couldn't afford to continue. That broke my heart. So I'm fixing it. Not for you, but because of you. Because loving you taught me to see the world differently. To use my resources to create opportunities instead of just accumulating more wealth. He showed her more. A foundation for small business owners. A grant program for artists. Housing for hospitality workers in expensive cities. All of it funded by his company. All of it inspired by conversations they'd had 7 years ago. This is what 7 years of obsession looks like when it's channeled productively, Dominic said. I couldn't stop thinking about you. So I built a world that would be worthy of you. A world where people like us, people who create beauty and meaning, don't have to choose between their art and their survival. Mara couldn't speak. couldn't process the scope of what he was showing her. This wasn't manipulation. This was transformation. He'd taken his obsession and turned it into something that helped thousands of people. The therapy, she finally managed. Tell me about the therapy. Dominic's expression became more serious. Dr. Sarah Chen specializes in obsessive disorders and attachment issues. I've seen her twice a week for 5 years. At first, it was about managing the obsession, learning to function without constantly thinking about you. But it evolved into something deeper, understanding why I attached to you so completely, why I couldn't imagine a future that didn't include you. He looked at her with devastating honesty. I learned that I latched onto you because you were the first person who made me feel valuable for who I was, not what I represented. My parents are complicated. They married for business, had me for legacy. I was always the Ashford heir, never just Dominic. Until you saw me, really saw me, and when you left, it felt like losing the only mirror that ever reflected my true self. That's not healthy, Mara said softly. No, Dominic agreed, which is why I spent 5 years working on it, learning to value myself independent of your validation, building an identity that wasn't just the boy Mara Chun once loved, becoming someone whole on my own, so that when I finally approached you, it wouldn't be from a place of desperate need but from a place of genuine partnership. He took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Dr. Chun made me promise something before she'd support me reaching out to you. She made me promise that I could walk away if you chose someone else, that I could genuinely want your happiness even if I wasn't part of it. It took me 3 years to be able to make that promise honestly. And can you? Mara asked. If I say no right now, if I take these letters and walk away, can you really let me go? The question hung between them. Dominic was quiet for a long moment, and she could see him wrestling with honesty. Yes, he finally said. It would destroy me. I'd probably need another year of intensive therapy. But I wouldn't follow you. Wouldn't fund your life from the shadows anymore. Wouldn't manipulate circumstances to keep you close. I'd let you go. Because real love means wanting your happiness more than I want my own desires fulfilled. The sincerity in his voice made her chest ache. But you don't want to let me go. God, no. Dominic's composure cracked. I want to keep you. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up every morning and watch you create. I want to fund every dream you've ever had. I want to protect you from every threat and celebrate every success and be the person you come home to. I want everything, Mara, but only if you choose it freely. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. Text from Elise. Please tell me you're okay. Please tell me you haven't fallen for his manipulation. Mara looked at the message, then at Dominic, then at the 7 leather journals sitting between them. 7 years documented. 7 years of obsession transformed into devotion. I need time, she said finally. I need to read these letters. All of them. And I need to process what you've told me. What you've shown me. How much time? Dominic asked, and she heard the fear in his voice. I don't know. A week? A month? However long it takes to understand if this is real or if I'm being manipulated by the most elaborate con in history. It's real, Dominic said with quiet intensity. Every word, every action, every letter. It's all real. Then it will survive scrutiny, Mara said. She stood, gathering the journals. I'm taking these. I'm going to read them, and then I'll decide. Dominic stood as well, and for a moment they just looked at each other. 2 people separated by 7 years and an ocean of obsession, standing in the ruins of a conservatory where they'd once promised each other impossible things. Mara, Dominic said as she turned to leave. One more thing. She looked back. What? Day 2847. Today's letter. I wrote it this morning. He pulled out a single folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket and held it out. Read it last. After you've read everything else. After you've decided. It's the only letter I've ever written that I actually want you to see. Mara took the paper, their fingers brushing. The touch sent heat through her entire body. She shoved the letter into her bag with the journals and walked away before she could do something stupid. Like kiss him. Like forgive him. Like choose obsession over sanity. But as she drove away, she could feel the weight of those 7 journals on the passenger seat. Feel the pull of 2,847 days of devotion calling to her. And the terrifying part was how badly she wanted to answer. Drop a comment below. Would you read the letters? And hit subscribe to see what happens next. Mara spent the next week consumed by Dominic's letters. She called in sick to work, ignored Elise's increasingly frantic calls, and did nothing but read. The journals were organized chronologically, one for each year, and they told a story more complex than she'd imagined. Year 1 was raw, angry bargaining and desperate justifications. Letters filled with plans to win her back, to make her see what they could be. But interspersed with the obsession were moments of clarity. Entries about starting therapy, about recognizing that his thoughts weren't healthy, about the hard work of trying to change. Year 2 showed growth. The letters became less about getting her back and more about understanding himself. He wrote about childhood loneliness, about parents who treated him like a business asset, about the isolation of being valued for your last name instead of your personality, about the way Mara had been the first person to see past all that. By year 3, something shifted. The letters became almost meditative. He wrote about building his company, about using his father's connections but creating something entirely his own, about donating to causes Mara cared about learning to channel obsession into productivity. Year 4 was when he found her. Mara's hands shook as she read his account of hiring private investigators, of the 2-year search, of finally seeing a photo of her at a Paris bakery competition, of the decision he made in that moment, the most important decision of his life. Day 1203. Dear Mara, I found you. After 2 years of searching, I finally found you. You're in Paris. You're working at Maison Beaumont. You're creating the most extraordinary pastries I've ever seen, even just in photographs. And I have a choice to make. I could get on a plane tomorrow, could show up at your work, could tell you everything I've felt for the past 4 years. But would that be fair to you? Would that be love or would that be selfishness? You left to build a life. You left to become who you were meant to be. If I show up now, desperate and obsessed, I'll derail that journey. I'll make your life about me instead of about you. So I'm making a different choice. I'm going to help you from a distance. I'm going to remove every obstacle I can without ever letting you know. I'm going to build something worthy of you, and then, if we're both still searching at 25 like we promised, I'll approach you. Not as the desperate boy you left behind, but as a man who's worthy of the woman you've become. This is love, I think. Real love. Choosing her dreams over my desires. Choosing patience over possession. Choosing to become worthy instead of just wanting. I'll wait, Mara. I'll wait and I'll watch and I'll help. And if you find someone else, if you build a beautiful life that doesn't include me, I'll learn to be happy for you. That's what Dr. Chun says real love looks like. I'm trying to believe her. Love always, Dominic. Mara cried reading that entry. Cried for the boy who'd loved her enough to stay away. Cried for the impossible choice he'd made. Cried because she could see his pain in every word. Years 5 and 6 documented his transformation. She read about the businesses he built, the foundation he started, the culinary institute he planned. Every major decision included a reference to her. Mara would want this to help people. Mara would appreciate the elegance of this solution. This would make Mara smile. He'd built an entire empire around the ghost of her. But year 7 was different. Year 7 showed a man who'd finally found peace with his obsession. The letters became shorter, calmer, less about her and more about the world, about his therapy breakthroughs, about learning to exist without constant thoughts of her, about preparing for the moment when he'd finally approach her. Day 2555. Dear Mara, Dr. Chun asked me today if I could genuinely be happy if you chose someone else. 6 months ago I would have lied, said yes to appease her. But today I could answer honestly. Yes. If you're happy, I can be happy. It would hurt. It would probably always hurt a little. But I've built a life that has meaning beyond you. The foundation helps thousands of people. The businesses employ hundreds. The Culinary Institute will change lives. You inspired all of it, but it exists independent of whether you love me back. That's growth, Dr. Chun says. That's real love. The ability to want someone's happiness more than you want them. I think I'm finally there. I think I'm finally ready to approach you. Not from a place of desperate need, but from a place of genuine partnership. 3 months until you turn 25. 3 months until our promise comes due. 3 months until I find out if 7 years of transformation was enough. I'm terrified and excited and so ready to see you again. Love always, Dominic. When Mara finally finished the last journal, the sun was rising. She'd read for 36 hours straight, consuming 7 years of devotion. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her heart felt too big for her chest, and she still had one letter left. Day 2847, the one he'd written that morning. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. Day 2847. Dear Mara, if you're reading this, it means you've read everything. You've seen all of me, the obsession and the growth, the mistakes and the learning, the desperate boy and the man he became. You know exactly how twisted this is, how excessive, how completely insane. And you're still holding this letter, which means you haven't called the police, haven't completely written me off. Or maybe you have and you're just curious what the last entry says. That's fair. I put you through a lot tonight. So here's what I need you to know. I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm not asking you to forget the 7 years of surveillance. I'm not asking you to accept the manipulation of your circumstances or the orchestration of your life. That would be unfair. What I'm asking for is a chance. One date. One evening where you can see who I've become instead of just who I was. Where we can talk as equals instead of as obsessor and object of obsession. One chance to show you that 7 years of devotion has transformed into something that might resemble partnership. And if after that date you want nothing to do with me, I'll accept it. I'll transfer all property back to you. I'll remove myself from your finances. I'll disappear completely and genuinely. But Mara, if there's any part of you that remembers the boy who watched terrible movies with you, who helped you perfect your first macaron recipe, who kissed you under broken glass and made you promise impossible things, if there's any part of you that wants to see what we could become, then meet me. Saturday night, 8 p.m. The address is below. Come or don't come. Choose freely. That's all I've ever really wanted. For you to choose. Love always, Dominic. Below the letter was an address. Mara recognized it. The building where she'd had her first professional success. The gallery that had showcased her desserts as edible art 3 years ago. The event that had launched her career. She pulled up the property records on her laptop and her breath caught. Dominic owned it. Had owned it for 4 years. Had purchased it 6 months before her showcase. He'd bought the building so she'd have a place to display her work. Had orchestrated her first major success. Mara should be angry. Should be furious at the manipulation. But she couldn't stop thinking about year 5, day 1756. The entry where he wrote about attending her showcase anonymously. About watching critics discover her talent. About the pride he'd felt seeing her dreams come true. I didn't create her brilliance, he'd written. I just made sure the world got to see it. Her phone rang. Elise. Mara finally answered. Oh, thank God, Elise said. You've been radio silent for a week. I was about to call the police. I've been reading, Mara said. Her voice was hoarse from disuse. Reading what? Those letters? Mara, please tell me you're not falling for this. He went to therapy for 5 years, Elise. He documented his entire transformation. He built schools and foundations and opportunities for people based on conversations we had 7 years ago. He found me 4 years ago and chose to stay away until he could approach me as an equal. Or he's a master manipulator who knew exactly what to write to win you over, Elise countered. Mara, abusers don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like Prince Charming. Sometimes they spend years building an elaborate fantasy to trap you. The words hit hard because Elise was right. This could all be an elaborate con. The letters could be calculated manipulation. The therapy could be fabricated. The foundations could be for tax purposes. Everything could be a lie designed to make her trust him. But what if it's real? Mara asked quietly. What if someone really loved me enough to spend 7 years becoming better? What if the obsession transformed into genuine devotion? Then he's still obsessed, Elise said gently. Healthy love doesn't look like surveillance and financial manipulation. Healthy love doesn't look like orchestrating someone's entire life from the shadows. What if I don't want healthy love? The words were out before Mara could stop them. What if I want the kind of love that builds empires and writes 2,847 letters and learns French just to read the journals I publish in? Silence on the other end. Then Elise sighed. You're going to meet him, aren't you? I don't know, Mara admitted. Part of me wants to. Part of me is terrified. Part of me thinks I'm insane for even considering it. All of you is right, Elise said. This is insane and terrifying and you absolutely should not do it. But I also know you, Mara. I know you've been looking for someone who sees you the way you saw him all those years ago. Someone who values your art as much as you do. Someone who understands the drive to create something beautiful. That doesn't make this healthy. No, Elise agreed. But maybe you need to see that for yourself. Maybe you need to have this date and realize that the fantasy can't live up to reality. Or maybe, she paused. Maybe you need to see if 7 years of obsession really can transform into partnership. You think I should go? I think you should do whatever you need to do to get closure, Elise said. But Mara, if you go, I'm tracking your location. I'm having your emergency contacts ready. And at the first sign of danger, you call me. Promise. Promise, Mara said. When she hung up, she looked at the letter again. Saturday night, 8 p.m. She had 3 days to decide. She spent those 3 days in turmoil. She reread sections of the journals. She researched Dominic's company and confirmed that yes, the foundations were real. The Culinary Institute was real. The grants and programs were all real and helping thousands of people. She looked up Dr. Sarah Chen and confirmed she was a respected therapist specializing in obsessive disorders. She found academic papers Dr. Chen had published about attachment and healthy love. Everything Dominic had told her was verifiable, which made it more terrifying, not less. Because if it was all true, if he really had spent 7 years transforming obsession into devotion, then Mara had a choice to make. Accept that level of intensity or walk away from potentially the most profound love she'd ever experience. Saturday arrived too quickly. Mara stood in front of her closet at 6 p.m., paralyzed by indecision. She'd decided to go, had decided not to go, had changed her mind 17 times. Finally, she pulled out a dress. Not the designer gowns Dominic could probably buy her. Not the casual clothes that said she didn't care. Something in between. A deep burgundy dress she'd bought herself with her first real paycheck. A dress that represented her success, earned or orchestrated, but hers nonetheless. She did her makeup carefully, put on the earrings her grandmother had given her, armed herself with every talisman of her own identity she could find. Because if she was walking into Dominic Ashford's orbit, she needed to remember who she was outside of his obsession. The building was transformed when she arrived. The gallery that had showcased her work was lit from within, warm and inviting. A single card waited at the entrance with her name on it. Top floor. Take your time. I'll wait. Mara took the elevator up, her heart pounding. The doors opened to reveal a space that made her breath catch. It was a replica of the conservatory. Broken glass ceiling repaired but left vintage. Wild roses growing in careful arrangements. Stone benches and moonlight, but elevated. More beautiful, like a memory perfected. And in the center stood Dominic. He'd traded his business suit for something simpler. Dark jeans, white shirt, looking more like the boy she remembered and less like the billionaire he'd become. You came, he said, and his voice shook. I read all the letters, Mara said, staying near the elevator. keeping her escape route clear. And I still don't know if this is the most romantic thing I've ever heard or the most terrifying. Can't it be both? Dominic asked, echoing his words from the conservatory. He moved closer but stopped several feet away, giving her space. I promised you a date, a chance to see who I've become. Will you give me that? Mara looked around the recreated conservatory, at the roses and the moonlight and the obvious care that had gone into creating this moment. You recreated our first kiss. I recreated the moment I fell in love with you, Dominic corrected. There's a difference. That night wasn't just about the kiss. It was about you telling me your dreams, about us promising to find our way back to each other, about believing that impossible things might be possible. He gestured to a table set for two. Real china, real silverware, but simple, elegant without being ostentatious. I made dinner. Well, I tried to make dinner. It's probably terrible because I'm a disaster in the kitchen. But I wanted to do something myself. Something that wasn't just money or influence. Something real. Mara's resolve cracked a little. You cooked. I destroyed your recipe for coq au vin 3 times before getting something edible, Dominic admitted with a self-deprecating smile. But I wanted you to have something I made with my own hands. Something that came from effort, not just from resources. He pulled out a chair for her. An invitation, not a command. Mara could walk away right now, could go back down the elevator and never see him again. He wouldn't stop her. 7 years of letters proved he could let her go if she chose. But she didn't want to go. God help her, she wanted to stay. Wanted to taste the meal he'd struggled to make. Wanted to hear him explain 7 years of obsession in his own words. Wanted to see if the boy she'd kissed under broken glass had really transformed into a man she could choose. She sat down. Dominic's relief was palpable as he sat across from her. Thank you, he said quietly, for giving me this chance. Don't thank me yet, Mara said. I'm here, but I'm not convinced. You've spent 7 years orchestrating my life. That's not something I can just forgive because you wrote pretty words. I know, Dominic said, and I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for the opportunity to show you what we could build together. As equals. As partners. He served the meal he'd made. It wasn't perfect. The chicken was slightly overdone, the sauce a bit too thick. But it tasted like effort. Like someone who'd spent hours trying to get it right. Tell me about the therapy, Mara said as they ate. Not what you wrote in the letters. Tell me what it was really like. Dominic set down his fork. It was hell. The first year especially. Dr. Chun made me examine every obsessive thought. Every impulse to find you. Every unhealthy pattern. She made me sit with the discomfort of not knowing where you were or if you were safe. Made me learn to tolerate uncertainty. He looked at her with devastating honesty. I failed a lot. I'd go weeks doing well. Then I'd break and hire another investigator or check your old social media accounts. Dr. Chun never gave up on me. She just kept pushing. Kept making me question whether what I felt was love or just obsessive attachment to an idealized memory. What did you decide? Mara asked. Both, Dominic said. I was obsessively attached to the memory of you, to the way you made me feel seen. But underneath that, there was real love. Genuine affection for who you were as a person. Dr. Chun helped me separate the two. To keep the love and address the obsession. By writing letters? By writing letters. By building something meaningful with my life. By learning to value myself independent of you. By becoming someone who could offer partnership instead of just desperate need. He met her eyes. It took 5 years before Dr. Chun agreed I was ready to approach you. 5 years of work before she believed I could handle rejection without spiraling. Could you? Mara challenged. If I say no tonight, if I walk away, will you really be okay? Dominic was quiet, and she appreciated that he was really thinking about it instead of just saying what she wanted to hear. I'd survive, he finally said. It would hurt. A lot. I'd probably need to increase my therapy sessions for a while. But I wouldn't follow you. Wouldn't fund your life from the shadows anymore. I'd let you go. Because real love means respecting your choice. Even when that choice destroys me. The conviction in his voice made her chest ache. The surveillance, she said. The money. The manipulation of my circumstances. How can you call that love? I can't, Dominic admitted. That wasn't love. That was obsession disguised as protection. And I'm not asking you to approve of it or excuse it. I'm just asking you to see that I recognized it was wrong and spent years changing. He pulled out his phone and showed her something. A legal document. This is a complete transfer of all properties back to you. Your building. Your business interests. Everything. If you want it, it's yours. No strings. No conditions. I'll sign it right now. Mara stared at the document. You'd really give it all back? I should never have taken it in the first place, Dominic said. Your success is yours, Mara, whether I helped or not. And if giving back control is what you need to trust me, then that's what I'll do. She thought about it. Thought about the building that had been her sanctuary, the investments that had saved her business, the mysterious help that had appeared at every critical moment. Not yet, she said finally. I need to understand something first. Why? Why spend 7 years and millions of dollars on someone who left you? Why not just move on and find someone easier? Dominic's laugh was bitter. You think I didn't try? I dated other people. Wonderful people. Smart, beautiful, accomplished women who would have been thrilled to be with me. And every single time, I'd sit across from them at dinner and think, she's not Mara. She doesn't see me the way Mara did. She doesn't make me want to be better the way Mara did. He leaned forward, intensity burning in his gray eyes. You want to know why I couldn't move on? Because you ruined me, Marcin. You showed me what it felt like to be valued for myself, and then you left. And every relationship after that felt like settling. Like accepting less than what I knew was possible. That's not fair to me, Mara said, her voice shaking. I didn't ruin you. I was 17 years old, going to culinary school. I wasn't trying to ruin anyone. I know, Dominic said quickly. I know it's not fair. None of this is fair. It's not fair that I attached to you so completely. It's not fair that I spent 7 years unable to move on. It's not fair that I've put you in this impossible position where you have to choose between walking away from potentially the most devoted love you'll ever receive or accepting that devotion comes wrapped in 7 years of obsessive behavior. He reached across the table but didn't touch her. Just left his hand there. An invitation. But Mara, I've done the work. I've spent 5 years in therapy learning to love you in a healthy way. I've built a life that has meaning beyond you. I've learned to respect boundaries and consent. I'm not the desperate boy who wrote those first letters. I'm someone who can offer you real partnership. Mara looked at his hand. At the choice he was offering. She could walk away. Could take the property transfers and the money and build a life independent of his influence. Or she could take his hand and see where 7 years of transformed obsession could lead. One more question, she said. The showcase. The gallery where I had my first professional success. You bought that building specifically for me, didn't you? Dominic didn't hesitate. Yes, I heard you talking about it 7 years ago. About how the traditional gallery spaces wouldn't showcase culinary art. How you'd need to find somewhere willing to take a risk on food as fine art. So when I saw that building was for sale, I bought it. I made sure they'd be open to your proposal. So my success wasn't real, Mara said, her voice flat. It was manufactured. No, Dominic said firmly. Your talent is real. The critics who praised your work weren't paid. The opportunities that came from that showcase weren't orchestrated. I just opened a door. You walked through it and proved you belonged there. There's a difference. Is there? Mara challenged. How do I know what I earned versus what you gave me? Because I've seen you work, Dominic said. I've watched you perfect recipes through 50 iterations. I've seen you fail and learn and grow. Your talent isn't something I created or bought. It's something you built through thousands of hours of practice and dedication. I just made sure the world got to see it. He pulled out his phone and showed her something else. Reviews of her work. Articles from food critics. Awards she'd won. These people don't know me. Don't know I had any involvement. They praised you based on merit. Your success is real, Mara. I just removed some obstacles along the way. Mara wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold onto her righteous fury. But looking at the evidence, at the genuine critical acclaim she'd received, she could see he was right. Her talent was hers. He'd just created opportunities, which was still manipulation, still wrong, but different from creating false success. I hate this, she said finally. I hate that I can't trust my own memories, can't know what was real and what was orchestrated. I hate that you've been pulling strings for 7 years. I know, Dominic said, and I'm sorry, truly. If I could go back and do it differently, I would. But I can't change the past. I can only offer you a different future. What does that future look like? It looks like transparency, Dominic said. No more secrets. No more surveillance. No more manipulation. It looks like you running your business and me running mine. Supporting each other but not controlling each other. It looks like therapy together to make sure we build something healthy. It looks like me proving every single day that I can love you without obsessing over you. He finally touched her hand, just his fingers on hers. It looks like partnership, Mara. Real partnership, built on choice and honesty, not on obligation or orchestration. Just two people who see each other and choose each other anyway. The touch sent electricity through her. Mara had been trying so hard to stay analytical, to examine this logically. But logic didn't account for the way her heart jumped when he touched her. Didn't account for the pull she felt toward him, despite everything. I need more time, she said. But she didn't pull her hand away. How much time? Dominic asked. I don't know. I need to talk to Elise. Maybe talk to Dr. Chun myself. I need to verify this is real transformation and not just elaborate manipulation. Dr. Chun would be happy to meet with you, Dominic said immediately. With or without me present. She can explain the work we've done. Help you understand if this is healthy or if I'm still operating from obsession. The immediate agreement disarmed her. A manipulator would resist, would try to keep her from objective outside input. You'd really let me talk to your therapist? I'd encourage it, Dominic said, because I want you to feel safe with this decision. I want you to have all the information you need to choose freely, even if that choice is walking away. Mara studied his face, looking for deception. But all she saw was sincerity and hope and barely contained fear that she'd reject him. Okay, she said finally. I'll meet with Dr. Chun. I'll take a few more days to think. And then I'll decide. That's all I can ask, Dominic said. His relief was palpable. They finished dinner in comfortable silence. Then Dominic led her to the center of the recreated conservatory. Do you remember what you said that night? He asked. 7 years ago, right here? Mara remembered. Remembered feeling brave and young and certain about impossible things. I said that if we were both still searching at 25, we'd give us a real shot. You said more than that, Dominic prompted gently. She closed her eyes, letting the memory wash over her. I said that if we were both still searching, it meant we were supposed to find each other. That maybe we needed the time apart to become people worthy of what we could be together. Do you still believe that? Dominic asked quietly. Mara opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked at him. At the boy who'd loved terrible sci-fi movies and helped her perfect recipes. At the man who'd spent 7 years transforming himself. At the person who saw her and chose her and built an empire around the possibility of her. I don't know what I believe anymore, she admitted. But I'm willing to find out. Dominic's smile was brilliant, transforming his face from handsome to devastating. That's enough, he said. That's more than enough. He didn't try to kiss her. Didn't push for more than she was ready to give. Just walked her to the elevator and watched as the doors closed between them. As Mara descended, she pulled out her phone and found a text waiting from an unknown number. She opened it and her heart stopped. It was a photo of her and Dominic. Tonight, in the conservatory, taken from outside the building. The caption read, "Cozy date with your stalker. Does he know about Paris? About the real reason you left? Or are you keeping secrets too?" Below it was another photo, one that made Mara's blood run cold. Her, 7 years ago, in an alley behind a Paris nightclub. Looking terrified. Running from something the photo didn't show. Someone else knew. Someone else had been watching. And they had secrets Mara had buried for 7 years. Secrets that would destroy everything if Dominic found out. What's going to happen next? Drop your theories in the comments and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss part 2. This story is just getting started.